Mythology, drama, and archetypes all play into our view of the world. Good always triumphs over evil. We always seem to root for the underdog, and justice is always fair and real. But sometimes truth can only be found by looking behind the curtain. Welcome to another edition of Behind the Curtain, a movie review show unlike any other movie review show. I'm Gareth Davis, and once again I'm joined by Mr. Alex Fate, and today we're going to discuss Prometheus. Hi, Alex.
Hello, Gareth. And this is a great film.
It is a great film.
It is. I'll just leap straight in and say that because I only watched it last night. It's a little bit after it came out, but I'm really pleased to have seen this.
It's panned by the critics, panned by the fans. A lot of diehard Alien fans of the first Alien movie or the Alien series did not like this movie.
Are they fools?
They were not fans.
Do they suffer lightly? I mean, what's going on? I really enjoyed this film. So anyone else can think what they like. And critics, ignoring this show, of course. Well, what do critics know anyway?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the first early Alien movie. I loved the original Alien. I remember seeing it as a child and being hypnotized by it and seeing it, dozens of times since.
You watched Alien when you were a child?
Yes.
That was a bit naughty, Gareth.
Well, it was a little naughty because I actually watched it on videotape.
Mm-hmm. I remember those days.
Yes. There's a little bit of a story here. We had, this was back in, 1980, I guess. The movie had been out for a little bit. It was not available on video cassette. And we had a Betamax or Betamax video recorder, this big, massive thing. It was like a suitcase. It was
the superior format that never existed. Or never did
one of those, and my dad kind of brought it home from someplace.
Did it have big buttons that you punch down?
Massive,
a real physical
huge
sound
clunk,
and feel
clunk,
of the machine.
and you hit eject, and the whole top would just go.
Oh, top loader. Yeah, an expensive one.
And my dad brought this tape home, and he said it's a new science fiction movie called Alien. And I'd heard little bits and pieces about it on TV, and the buzz was going. And I watched it on that. I must have been like, 10, 11, something like that. And it was terrible quality. Terrible quality. I mean, it's a dark movie anyway, but you think about that on an old, a really, really bad image on a VCR, on an old, TV.
Do you know, I just saying that I think many people today can't imagine that.
Can't imagine it, yeah.
Because I went through the same experience as well. I remember seeing Terminator on a really bad, dodgy copy years and years ago. And there's a scene in there where he grabs a man's heart, he punches into his chest and pulls out his heart. And I can remember at the time not even knowing what he did because the copy was so bad. It was only years later I found out what on earth happened. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar with me with Alien, but I was, I was mesmerized. I was fascinated by the whole concept, and the whole design of the movie was revolutionary. The look of the movie, the feel of the movie, everything about it was years ahead of its time. And years later, obviously, I finally saw it in the movies. I saw it on VHS. I saw it on Laserdisc, and I saw it on DVD. I've seen it on Blu-ray. I've seen it on all formats. And I'm a huge fan of the first movie. And not so much the second one. Not that I didn't like it. I did. I loved Aliens, the sequel.
It's a different type of film, isn't it?
It's a very, very different film. And even though
was it Carpenter who did the second one?
No, it was James Cameron.
It's Cameron, I beg your pardon.
James Cameron did the second one.
Yeah, that's
and while it was, it's a fun movie, it's an engaging movie, it's an action movie. From my opinion, it wasn't a patch on the dark, disturbing original Alien.
Two different movies altogether, and I just want to question what you said. A movie ahead of its time.
Oh, absolutely.
What does that phrase even mean?
Well, from my perspective, Alien being ahead of its time, it came out in 1979, and everything about it says that movie should have come out in the mid-90s. Everything about it. The look, the feel, the design, the forward thinking, the language, the story, everything about it was.
So you mean kind of culturally?
Oh, absolutely.
What we would be used to seeing. In that sense, it was ahead of its time.
Well, look at around that. It came out in 79. Star Wars came out in 77. You look at Alien and you look at Star Wars, and it's night and day. It's like watching Buster Crabbe in Flash Gordon from the 30s, and Star Trek.
What I'm taking from that, Gareth, is maybe it's the other way, that all the other films in general, the majority of films, the mass media, is more dumbed down, and it keeps us back.
Yeah,
it keeps us in a state of what we would expect within film, with any media. I mean, we've looked at Charlie Chaplin before; he was way ahead of his time in the same sense.
Absolutely. It was Alien was the dark 2001. It was the it was the yang to 2001's yin. It was and maybe we should do 2001 on Behind the Curtain sometime in the future, because that's another one of my favorites. But Alien was
it's a classic.
Yeah, was spectacular. So then when the rumors started circulating that Ridley Scott, the guy who did Aliens, who did Alien, was going back to the science fiction genre and going back to the original source material of Alien. All of science fiction fandom just went apeshit. They went off the charts. They were incredibly eager to see this movie, and maybe that's why they were so disappointed, because their expectations were so great.
Well, I always like to be a little different, but I didn't feel like that, and I like the original Aliens film, and I think Ridley Scott is a fine director, a great director, maybe. But as I said, I only saw this film last night. I didn't rush out to see it in the cinema, and I haven't gone out to get a copy before, and I didn't have that urge to see it at all. It just didn't feel. It felt like a bit of a, maybe, dare I say, a rehash. That was what was in my mind.
Okay.
Capitalising on the great older film. But after seeing it, no. I take all that back and I say this is a great film in itself for me.
Well, I would agree. I absolutely loved it, and I did rush out and see it in the movies, and bought the Blu-ray when it was released. I bought the Blu-ray primarily just to get the extras, because there's a 3.5 hour making of documentary that's included on the Blu-ray. And it's pretty spectacular. I mean, if you're into the movie and you're into the whole background of how it was put together, most people think, you're going to sit there for 3.5 hours and watch people yap about putting a movie together? I was hypnotized. It was pretty awesome.
If it's done well, the behind the scenes, as it were, is a great thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it was spectacular.
You watched the film in the first place because you've got an interest,
right?
What about the film then, Gareth? So far, we've talked all about Alien.
Well, we're giving
the history. What about for this film?
We're giving a kind of setup to the kind of origin of this movie, and why maybe it was universally put down. I mean, it did okay at the box office. It didn't make a fortune, but it did okay. Most people that I've spoken to who are sci-fi fans, when I ask them about Prometheus, they go, "Oh, it was terrible. I hated it." And I often get taken aback because I absolutely loved it. I didn't want it to end. I wanted more and more to happen.
I'm just with you on this, and I've got a theory for why people didn't like it. But what's your reasoning?
Because it was too it was too airy-fairy. In other words, it was tackling concepts and ideals that the general public have no interest in. And when somebody has got aliens and alien in their head, and then Prometheus comes along, it's like, what the hell is this? Where's the xenomorph? Where's the facehuggers? Where's the
so the audience didn't get what they paid their money for.
Right.
Yeah, they're expecting a blood bath.
Well, we did get
an extravaganza.
We did get a blood birth.
We did, didn't we? Yes, slip of the tongue there. But I think it's similar to what you're saying. The airy fairy. Yeah, I can get that, and I can see the audience not getting what they thought they were going to get. But I also think that people now we live in this internet age, don't we, where you can get an answer to anything instantly.
Yeah.
Whether the answer's right or not, as in depth, is another question, but you can get that answer. And you said the film was ahead of its time, and maybe it wasn't ahead of its time. Maybe it was back in the past sort of feeling. Maybe it was back in this alien age of filmmaking where we were given questions more. And most films you see now, they're wrapped up so neat and tidy at the end, and we know who did what, we know why it was done. And Prometheus is one of those films, which is why I love it, which just gives us questions as well.
I keep thinking that in today's day and age, if you were to sit down in a movie executive's office and pitch to them essentially, an updating of Chariots of the Gods, they'd laugh you out of the room. You're done. It's like, get out of here. You're out of your mind.
I think they want a quick turnaround. They want to give the audience exactly what the audience want. They want this roller coaster of a ride,
right?
And it's that simple. It's just a money making scheme on a short term basis.
The reason that this movie is essentially Chariots of the Gods,
which is art, isn't it? A little bit, dare I say? It's more of an art film, perhaps.
But the only reason this Chariots of the Gods was created and given lots of money was because Ridley Scott was involved, and he mentioned a prequel to Alien. You take the prequel to Alien out of it, and you take Ridley Scott out of the picture, and this movie would never, ever, ever have been made.
Or it would have turned into an Alien versus Predator.
Exactly.
And then the engineers could save us, please. Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about the engineers now.
Have we set up the preface for this story? What is Prometheus? What's it about?
Prometheus is about the origins of life on Earth, or rather, the origins of mankind on Earth. I don't know. Do you think this movie ties into evolution or not?
I think it opens the question of where we're from, who we are. But I think it's working on several levels. It's still a Hollywood film.
Yes, it is.
And there are a lot of themes in here that just run throughout all of Hollywood films, all of the films that are trying to tell a message. And I think there is a message in this as well.
So let me ask you, Alex, what did you think of the movie? Tell us a little bit about your take on what it's all about.
Well, first of all, I loved it. I love the opening sequence, and the cinematography is just beautiful. And it definitely is Ridley Scott. You can tell that. What is it about? For me, it's working on a deeper level. And it's actually the same story as The Matrix that we've also talked about.
Yeah.
And it's retelling a biblical prophecy. That's how I see this story. But the film is set up about who created us. Mm. Some alien, let's call them an engineer, because maybe they designed us. Are we designed, or is it a god that magically made us? Or is it evolution? Have we come about over countless generations?
Well, I think...
I think just say, this film supposes that there were engineers out there in space, and we set out to find them. That's the film.
I think this movie is... there are evolutionary aspects to this movie. It doesn't discount evolution completely. It clearly shows manipulation via DNA, right? The beginning scenes of the movie, where the engineer, in some sort of ritual, and if I mentioned on the Blu-ray, there's the huge documentary, and there's a lot of deleted scenes also that were filmed for the movie, but then cut out of the movie for whatever reason. And
I want to say on this ritual, it's beautiful. I found the opening of this film just perfect.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Because the last thing I wanted to see was aliens leaping at us, killing us and things at the start. And this was just flying over a planet, beautiful mountains, water.
Well, it's so... It's very subdued also, because you see this huge flying saucer, so to speak, just in the background, and there's a wonderful scene where the engineer drinks the liquid, and as he's drinking the liquid, everyone is focusing on him putting this cup to his lips and drinking it. But if you notice in the background, you see the ship just kind of floating away up into the clouds, and it's done so beautifully. Just kind of in the background, like, okay, bye.
Yeah, it's kind of just a magical feeling, isn't it? To it all, it's surreal, but it's like tangible. You could touch this world. You could imagine even the engineer, who is a kind of alien creature, looking similar to us. For me, it felt real.
Yeah,
and it was done so well. It was just it wasn't outlandish. It was simple, and yet.
So the ritual at the beginning on the extras on the Blu-ray, it's expanded upon, whereas he's not the only one there. There's a group of the engineers in hooded robes, I should add, and they do go through some kind of ritual where they give him the cup. And then they leave. Now that was all cut from the final release of the movie, but it is available as It's not like these. I'm sure if you hopped onto YouTube and searched for the clip, you'd find it. Somebody's probably posted it up there.
As I said, I only saw this last night, but I'm pleased with that. I haven't gone through a process of checking out all the behind the scenes, so I'm taking this fresh for what it was. And for me, this engineer at the start, or this alien. They were destroying themselves intentionally.
It was a sacrifice. It was
exactly, but it was a self-sacrifice, wasn't it?
It was a sacrifice to create a new life.
Let me just ask a quick question, Gareth, because I'd like to tie these things in a bit. Do you think Jesus sacrificed, just assuming you go along with the Bible story, isn't that what he did? He sacrificed himself for us?
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
you see, I see many parallels here with the Bible.
From a certain point of view, you could say that. Yeah, I mean,
these creatures could be being set up as our saviors.
Well, see, that's the thing. It ties into the core of our dramatic and fictional history, our myths. Stories like this where, self-sacrifice, Messiah, sacrificing for us, all of these things tie into who we are as a people. These stories are replicated hundreds, if not thousands of times throughout history. We're talking about the exact same story, but the names and the situations have been changed. But the story, the thread, is always the same.
And isn't this, dare I say, the true evolution of humankind? That if we look into ancient cultures around the planet, what do we see? We see patterns being repeated around the globe.
Yes.
We see references to the same type of gods, to the same type of origins. And that's exactly what this film did. If anything, there's a scene within this film where they just pull up these tablets from around the world. And I don't know about you, but when I first saw that, when the film came out, I was thinking, wow, because... yeah, we've seen all this stuff, we know of this, but the mainstream media don't. And for one of the first times, they are taking alternative information and pushing it into our faces in Hollywood.
Right.
And are they trying to tell us a message? Or more to the feeling, it feels as if all mainstream media these days are talking about the topics that we would talk about on Mindset.
Yeah, they are, but I think that it's done in a way where, you know, they and I have a clip, but I'm going to play in a moment, which of this exact moment was when they discuss all of the different cave paintings and sculptures and etchings that they found throughout the world of different cultures that apparently never interacted with each other, but shared a common theme. The vast viewing public watching this movie are not going to make the connection. They're not going to take that next step and think, well... No,
they're not. But what they've done, and maybe I use the word talking as the wrong word, what they're doing is they're presenting us this information in a Hollywood style.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's wrapped up in the Hollywood story, but it's still information that most people wouldn't have even considered as an idea.
No, that's true. I mean, yes.
We've got the old Sumerian tablets, and there's like one particular image which shows, if you just look at it without any information, it looks like a star system. It looks like our star system with the sun surrounded by planets, and that was directly referenced in these tablets again in the film.
Yeah,
and so it's and even on that. Within the symbols that they find in the film, there's these aliens or these large creatures pointing to a star system. And isn't that exactly what we find in ancient texts?
Sure, and we do. I mean, you look at the Mayans. I mean, the thing that you look at some of the ancient artifacts from the Mayans, and you know, you see airplanes, you see people in spaceships, you see people wearing space helmets. I mean, you know, and archaeologists and scholars, they'll all say, well, this is, you know, coincidence. This is just flights of fancy. They're gods. But when I look at it, I see something that Prometheus is talking about. You know, I see it plain as day, obvious.
And I think one clever little piece with Prometheus is there's a character which they call a robot, but it's more a synthetic human type character. God. And he's got I mean, this has been done before, but he's got a little, like a copyright logo on his finger where his fingerprint
yes.
would be. Yeah? But, you know, I thought, isn't that exactly the same?
Oh, it's wonderful.
As an ancient race pointing to the stars.
Yeah.
On his finger, it's pointing to his maker.
Exactly. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But perhaps the theme of this story is that we have this innate desire to find out who created us. Well, and to leave a trace, regardless of which alien race we are.
Now, let me just play a clip here, because I have a clip here where they discuss the findings of the star map, so to speak, and also the introduction of Wayland himself. This is the scene where they're on the ship and their mission is spelled out to them with the hologram of Wayland, and then the discussion of how they found this map.
Wayland Corporation, building better worlds.
Hello, friends. My name is Peter Wayland. I am your employer. I am recording this 22 June. 2091. And if you're watching it, you have reached your destination. And I am long dead. May I rest in peace. There's a man sitting with you today. His name is David. And he is the closest thing to a son I will ever have. Unfortunately, he is not human. He will never grow old. And he will never die. And yet he is unable to appreciate his remarkable gifts. For that would require the one thing that David will never have, a soul. I have spent my entire lifetime contemplating the questions. Where do we come from? What is our purpose? What happens when we die? And I have finally found two people who have convinced me they're on the verge of answering them. Doctors Holloway and Shaw, if you would please stand. As far as you're concerned, they're both in charge. The Titan, Prometheus, wanted to give mankind equal footing with the gods. For that, he was cast from Olympus. Well, my friends, the time has finally come for his return. Doctors, please. The floor is yours.
Wow. All right. Never had to follow a ghost before. Okay. Let me show you why you guys are here. These are images of archaeological digs from all over the earth. That's Egyptian, Mayan, Sumerian, Babylonian. That's Hawaiian there at the end, and Mesopotamian. Now, this one here is our most recent discovery. It's a 35,000-year-old cave painting from the Isle of Skye in Scotland. These are ancient civilizations that were separated by centuries. They shared no contact with one another, and yet the same pictogram showing men worshiping giant beings pointing to the stars was discovered at every last one of them. And the only galactic system that matched was so far from Earth that there's no way that these primitive, ancient civilizations could have possibly known about it. But it just so happens that system has a sun, a lot like ours. And based on our long-range scans, there seemed to be a planet. Just one planet with a moon capable of sustaining life. And we arrived there this morning.
So that was a fairly long clip, but I think it illustrated two things. The first one I want to bring up is Wayland when he enters. I don't know if you recognize that music that was playing, but the music that plays when Wayland enters in the hologram is the opening theme to the original Alien by Jerry Goldsmith. I don't know if you knew that, Alex.
Do you know? I think I recognise it, but I didn't realise it.
Yeah, it was the theme from the original.
And Jerry Goldsmith obviously did so many classic tunes.
Oh yeah, amazing composer. But yeah, they used that, and in the press before this movie was released, Ridley Scott kept saying that this movie is set in the Alien universe, but is not a direct sequel to Alien. And that got everyone thinking. And I remember sitting in the theater watching it thinking, okay, I wonder, is this really a truly sequel to Alien? And then as soon as that music played, I was like, okay, got it. It is.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you know what I took from that clip? Something a little different. I'm going to keep going back to the Bible.
Okay.
And not because I'm trying to push some religious debate, but because I believe there are... At first it's going to sound, like you said, airy-fairy. Like I'm just making up connections. But as we go on, I think you'll see, no, there are direct comparisons here. In that one clip for me, if you just listen to the start of it, and it's repeated a little bit at the end, you have Wayland the father.
Yep.
Then he talks about his son.
Yep.
And then who does he follow? He says he's never followed a ghost before. So you've got the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Exactly, yeah.
All in the one little sentence. And then also it's talked about the Son as in being the son of the planet. So we've got the son of God, maybe, Wayland, perhaps. Wayland created David,
right.
This child, or robot, life form, whatever you want to call him. And then also we've been told the Son is the Son in the heavens as well, perhaps.
Well, there is this movie, when you really break it down, is a movie about religion. It's a religious movie in many, many respects. They constantly talk about faith. They constantly talk about the Creator, who created us, who created the people that created us. You know
it's propelling the myth of the questions of who we are, where we came from, where we're going. Those old questions.
Now, there's a wonderful moment in the movie that I want to play this clip just to kind of set the scene. And it's a part where they're on the journey, and David, the android, is alone on the ship. Everyone else is in cryogenic. They're all in hypersleep or whatever. And because he's an android, he doesn't age, whatever. And he's tending the ship. He's making sure that everything is functioning normally. And then there's a scene where he goes over to the casket of the primary, I forget her name, the archaeologist. And he plays back a memory.
You're talking about Dr. Shaw.
Yes.
And I'll just say, Michael Fassbender, I think, is the actor for David, isn't he?
Yes.
And what did you think of his acting ability?
I thought he was amazing.
Yeah, I loved it as well. He really suited that character.
He was for me. He was the star of the show. He was absolutely incredible playing David the android. And I want to get into talk a little bit about him in a moment. But let me just play this clip, because I find this clip really does illustrate what the essence of Prometheus is about.
What happened to that man?
He died.
Why aren't you helping them?
They don't want my help. Their God is different than ours.
Why did he die?
Sooner or later, everyone does.
Like Mummy.
Like Mummy.
Where do they go?
Everyone has their own word. Heaven. Paradise. Whatever it's called. It's called someplace beautiful.
How do you know it's beautiful?
Because that's what I choose to believe. And what do you believe in?
So that sets the scene. He's accessing some of her memories while she's asleep. And, I mean, that little clip there illustrates a few things. But primarily the question of faith, religion, where do we go when we die, where do we come from, all encapsulated in that, that 30-second clip. And when you're watching the movie, when you initially see that clip, you immediately think, okay, so this is giving us some background into Dr. Shaw's psyche as to who she is and what she's all about, because it shows you her mother's died. But it's a lot more than that. It's for me, it's speaking the entire theme of the movie.
No, it is, because there's even a scene later where they talk about the engineers, and she says, well, who made them?
Right.
So even if you find your creator, who made the creator?
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe there's a greater creator. And it all comes down to your belief in the end. But I feel Hollywood is trying to always push this way of thinking.
Yeah.
For example, why do we have to look for a creator or a meaning of life? For example, could we not say the meaning of life is that we have to put meaning into life? We have life. And instead of looking outside, always searching outside, we look inside a little bit.
Well, it's partly, I mean, we're an imaginative species, right? We have these big brains and we think a lot, and we like to see linear patterns. We like to see beginning, middles, and ends in everything. So, when we're presented with a mystery like this, we can't logically and rationally figure it out, at least not yet. So we start making shit up to fit those patterns. And
we're presented with these patterns.
Yeah.
Okay, beginning, middle, and end. I mean, that's a way of telling a story.
Yeah.
So someone decides. I mean, this goes back to Aristotle, and it's a method of telling a story that works upon us. Well, so we don't have to think this way. But I'm going a little bit aside it. But I think these films work very well on giving this the same questions that we've been told for thousands of years now.
Well, just think about what you just said, Alex. As far as the story. The story is everything to humanity. We're obsessed with the story, the tale.
But why? Because for centuries, thousands of years, we've been told there's a God out there. And we need to go and find, we need to work out what our reason is, and maybe the answer is, and this is a question, I'm not saying it is or isn't, but maybe the answer is there isn't a reason. For example. So we're always searching for something that doesn't even exist.
It's as if And this, it's as if we're pre-programmed to be obsessive of a narrative, a tale, a story. We even apply this concept of the story to our lives. When you look at your life or somebody else's, there's a thing as a biography, right? It's a story. It's a progression from birth to death, cradle to grave. It's a story with highlights and drama and this and that. The story exists in every aspect of our being, and we are hypnotized by it. Not only are we strongly attracted to the story, but we kind of ingrain it into our very existence. And where the story doesn't exist, we will create it.
Now we're getting somewhere, Gareth. Exactly. And what else does this story do? This particular story is trying to tell us that our engineers, our creators, are essentially perhaps the same as us.
Well, there's a scene in the movie where they recover an engineer's head. And we should just tell everyone who's never seen the movie, or maybe have seen the original Alien, is that in the original Alien, there's a scene where they find this derelict spacecraft, and they get inside, and they find this enormous creature in this device with its chest popped open, and they always refer to it as the space jockey. Well, that creature is the engineer in Prometheus, and there's a few scenes in the movie that are directly related to, at least visually, design-wise, to that scene in the original Alien. But there's a scene where they recover one of the engineer's heads, and they take it on board the Prometheus, and they discover that the head is in fact a helmet. A space helmet, when it looks just like an alien creature's head.
Now, wait a minute. I want you to explain something to me, Gareth.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay. All right. Now I'm not a space explorer. Okay.
Neither am I, by the way.
Well, I thought you were in America. I thought you all aspired. Okay, but and again, I'm not a highly trained scientist who has done autopsies or whatever. All right, but I would have thought common sense would say, you don't do it without any type of... You find this alien head and you put it in front of yourself and you don't have any mask, no breather. It's not contained in any way.
There was a scene in the movie where the head is completely contained, and they do sterilize it and they do scan for pathogens.
Oh, all right, let me go back a bit earlier then, because a bit earlier, I don't understand why they did this, because it seems so glaringly stupid to me. That they go down into this alien craft or building, and they find the air is breathable. So what do? They take their helmets off.
Well, there's to be fair, there are a lot of moments like that in the movie where in reality things would not have played out like that. There's a lot of dramatic license that takes place, like the whole scene with the snake creature.
Exactly, but you see, this is key to me. These aren't just silly scenes.
Yeah,
this is our mindset view. Why does Hollywood do this?
Right.
Okay. Now, wouldn't this... Ridley Scott must be aware of this. Wouldn't it have been much more... He could have made it into a dramatic scene just as well, without the people being so stupid.
Hey, hi, look at... like it's hi. In reality...
You find an alien that looks like a snake.
You'd be terrified.
And you're going to put your face in front of it.
Forget the alien. A real snake, you'd be running a mile,
I know, but even just all the viruses in the air or anything.
Sure, yeah.
You'd be ultra careful, wouldn't you?
No, absolutely, and all valid points and stuff that popped into my head while I was watching it.
And I just want to give another one.
Yeah.
What do they? Because this is key, I think, to Hollywood. The image they're trying to tell us about the world, which is false. What do they get together to go and look for these aliens? Well, they get together a wacky crew.
Yeah.
With a wacky scientist and a guy who likes guns and the nerdy guy and they assemble a team of people,
of misfits,
all individual with strong characters, and that's the image we're told again and again with Hollywood. Now you go and look at the real world, and if you see a mission to somewhere, you'll see heavily conditioned soldiers, people who perform that. Yeah, it's very regular people who are used for missions. You don't see this collection of wacky individuals.
Never, because you'd accomplish nothing. They'd be fighting too much. They'd be bickering. There'd be issues. They'd be crazy. They'd never get along. You'd never get to where you want to go.
But we have to be told that, hey, yeah, the world's cool and fun and crazy.
Yeah.
We're presented this light all the time through Hollywood.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely correct. The head itself, though, they think it's some creature, but when they discover it's a helmet, then they pop it open. They're shocked to discover that there's a kind of human head inside the helmet, a much larger human head of a dare I say it, giant. And then they run a DNA check on it and find that it's basically a complete match to human DNA. So they, in fact, are us, and vice versa, but on a much larger scale. These people or creatures or whatever you want to call them are enormous. These huge, massive men,
Yeah, and again, that's a real analogy to real history.
Right, with the giants.
Some histories of humankind are to the Nephilim or right. the giants that came before us.
Yep.
And where did they come from? Fallen angels giving birth or impregnating humans.
Exactly.
So and that's what this film also has. So it's retelling many ancient stories of human evolution or human creation.
Yeah, and it really does. It ties into... this movie is basically Chariots of the Gods in space. It's very ancient astronaut. That's basically the crux of the movie.
How did the alien come about? I just mentioned impregnated humans.
Mm. Well,
in this film, how did that happen?
I'm not following you. What do you say that again?
Well, the Dr. Shaw, she gives birth to an alien.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, this is part of the movie that I still don't fully understand, and I'm hoping that maybe if there's a sequel, fingers crossed, that they'll elaborate a little bit on this. When they get into this alien building, they discover these canisters. And the initial scene is very, very reminiscent of the scene in the original Alien where they find the alien's eggs.
Yeah, I think when they first show this room, you think that these canisters are the eggs. I don't think it's that clear, the very first shot.
Yeah, and they do look like eggs, but they're these canisters that contain some kind of virus. And there's thousands or maybe hundreds of thousands of these canisters. And it's very interesting that David, the android, immediately, as if he knows what they are, he takes one.
Yeah, later on we have the captain saying that this was a weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah, but how does he know that?
Well, I think they're trying to say from a stereotypical point of view, this man who's a captain of a craft, like maybe a military man, perhaps in his background, that's the way that he would see it.
Yeah. And these canisters contain some kind of virus, some kind of pathogen. And David somehow, and this is once again echoes to the original Alien with the android, I forget his name, Ian Holm played the android in the original Alien, where he knew what was going on and kept it away from the crew. In the original Alien, the plan was to bring one of these creatures back to Earth. And it's like in this movie, there's something very similar going on.
And also, if we were created by the engineers, we're going back to our creator, in the sense that our creators don't have control on us. We don't have control on our creation, the robots, perhaps.
Yeah.
But what else is in that room, Gareth? Did you notice anything else? In particular, there's a picture of an alien.
Well, there's a huge statue of the head, and when you look up, there's they immediately shine their flashlights up onto the ceiling, And there's like all these designs, and one design is very, very reminiscent to the original Alien from the first movie.
And what pose is that alien in, Gareth?
He's in a kind of crucifixion-ish
crucifixion
kind of
pose, exactly. I mean, it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So, I mean, this is not coming. In fact, let me just go back to the very start of the film, which is almost insignificant. But they're on the ship. They've just woken up on the ship after reaching their destination. What is the captain doing? Do you remember?
No, I don't. What's he doing?
He's got a Christmas tree out.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So the very start of the film, we're told it's Christmas.
Well,
and we're being shown a crucifixion.
There's an extra scene in that was cut where it actually shows the captain setting up the Christmas tree, and they get into a kind of dialogue as to why you're doing that. And he actually says, "It's Christmas Day, let's try and be a little festive here."
Yeah, I mean, and just think the other films that we've talked on. Oh my goodness, Eyes Wide Shut. We talked so many times about the Christmas trees in there being symbolic, pyramid shape as well. And there's also the essence of paganism of bringing the green into the house. I mean, they've done all this repetition of topics, but definitely the Christian aspect is there.
Yeah, absolutely. All of these things tie together. As I say, this movie. It's a very religious movie when you break it down. I don't want to. I'm jumping around
a bit here, but Dr. Shaw wears a crucifix all the time. That's her faith,
right?
And it's maybe she's being questioned if she can keep her faith. Maybe she's been tested because she is the one later that gives birth to an alien,
kind of proto-xenomorph.
But she's barren.
Yeah,
she can't have children,
right?
And so what have we got? We've got a miracle birth,
virgin birth,
on Christmas Day.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing the parallels. Let's talk a little bit about David. And I found his name interesting also because of the whole David and Goliath aspect.
Okay.
David and Goliath, of course, the biblical story where he defeats the giant. And we talked earlier about the giants of old, the Nephilim, the Elohim, those who came from the sky and mated with the daughters of men because they were fair, and a whole new race was sprung. And that ties directly into Prometheus, the engineers, these big giant creatures.
I think you've worked out the sequel. I think it will be David and Goliath. Our creation is going to save us from our creators.
Well, you never know.
He might have to kill our creators in order that we can survive.
Well,
There's a twist.
That is a good twist. I
should write to Ridley Scott immediately with my idea.
You should immediately say, "I've solved it, Ridley." But apparently the ship at the end is going back to Earth. They don't like the way their experiment or their offspring has turned out, and they want to wipe the slate and start over, which is why Prometheus, ramming speed and hits the ship to bring it down.
Oh, but wait, right? One of the key essences of this film as well is I want to use the phrase, it's a Russian phrase in my head, build, destroy. In order to build, you have to destroy first. Instead of this evolution, which our Western minds has, of evolve a little bit, change, build upon it.
Yeah.
There are other countries that have suffered far more revolution.
Sure.
And in their mindset, they destroy, and then from the ashes, they can rise up again.
Well, if you look through the history of planet Earth, this has happened on multiple occasions. I think it's happened on 4 or 5 occasions where life is allowed to develop to a certain point, and when it's reached a certain point, if it's not working out, it's wiped out and starts over. It's happened with the dinosaurs, and who knows? Maybe it'll happen with us.
Well, in this film, isn't that what they're suggesting? That the engineers need to wipe us out, perhaps, to take us forward to another stage.
Yeah, because if you start an experiment and it's successful to a point, but then gets a little out of control, you have to destroy the experiment, wipe it out, and start fresh.
Or perhaps that is the point of the experiment.
Yeah.
That you have to, for example, maybe we were being created to help for food for these other alien creatures, for example.
Could be.
But what I liked about that, at the end of the film, I thought maybe there's the question here of, are we compelled in our DNA to destroy, to survive? Because what do we do in the film to survive? Well, we have to kill.
Sure.
We have to kill the alien, so that we have to kill our maker so that we can continue.
Well, the survival instinct is the primary instinct of humanity. I think when you're threatened like that, to survive, you'll do anything, literally anything, in order to survive. Rats are scared of people. They're scared. They'll run like crazy. But if you corner a rat, that rat will fight like there's no tomorrow. And I think it's very similar to humanity. Humanity will run and squirm and try and get away and be very sheep-like and follow the herd and all. But once you corner humanity, it's game on.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. And yeah, I can see a lot of... I was trying to again think Western and Eastern philosophies and how we might be placed in a situation. Yeah, but we've got this huge... Do we have? I think we do have a huge urge to stay alive.
Sure, absolutely. Huge.
To hold on to life.
I think it's our primary instinct. It's our primary instinct is survival.
And yet at the start of this film, isn't that what the engineer is doing different? They are giving their life.
It's a higher cause, yeah, and people do that also. Individuals will do that. They will sacrifice themselves for a greater cause, as an individual. But as a species, I think that survival it's ingrained in us. Mm. I mean, I think if we take it into our mind that we want to end our lives, that's different. But if something external is threatening our lives, then you know what? It's game on. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's interesting in this film how our creators, the engineers, were presented as being big, strong, but violent.
Yeah.
They weren't some godlike creation or shining glory and benevolent and loving. They were quite harsh,
very harsh,
violent.
Very harsh, violent. But then again, what we've experienced with these engineers in this movie, it's very limited. I mean, we haven't seen the entire culture of what they are.
Absolutely,
it's very limited in what we've experienced with, and we do see two sides. And the engineers that we see at the beginning of the movie.
Yes.
And the ones we see later on are very different in attitude and tone.
But isn't that like us as well? Maybe that's the point of it.
Sure.
That if God created us in His image, then maybe if he would be like a race of aliens or engineers, maybe he has light and dark sides as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're all shades. There's the light, the dark, and all the gray in between. That's humanity. It's a little bit off topic, but kind of when I until I saw the making of Prometheus, I could not figure out whether or not the engineers were real or CGI.
That was at the very start of this film. That's exactly what I was thinking. That's what I loved.
I couldn't figure
because so often you think you know what it is one way or the other, and I wasn't sure.
But it turned out it was real. It was a guy. It was a guy in makeup, in a mask, But it was done so well that it looked like it was computer generated.
Well, in today's technology and visual effects, it's great to see something and to feel you're not sure which it is. Because even if you're wrong, so often we look at something and think, oh, I know how that was made. But you might be right, you might be wrong. But in this case, you're looking at it and you're going, well, I just don't know.
Yeah, they just got some huge guy, like the biggest guy they could find, and they put him in this rubber suit, and it looks amazing. And the way they did this perspectives and stuff, regular normal people look tiny compared to him. Before we wrap it up, I just want to touch on David, because he was my favorite in the movie.
Yeah, he's and I don't want to spoil it for people, but he'll be back, I think.
Yeah, I think too.
Because I think do you think there's going to be a sequel?
I hope so. I really, really hope so. But who knows? I mean, the movie didn't do that well. A lot of people hated it. So maybe not. But I hope that they get back to it and at least do one more movie that kind of bridges the gap between Prometheus and the first Alien would be. Yeah, and
I would do David in 1 second. Sorry, but I just want to mention you just said the word Prometheus. We haven't even said what that is.
Oh, right, yeah.
But of course, it's all to do with going back to Greek, and there was a Titan who helped effectively mankind grow, evolve, move on.
Well, Wayland explains it. He wanted to put mankind on level footing with the gods, and the gods were not going to have that.
Yeah, so but this is it's all questioning where we come from, where we go. But I think with that, one thing I love is that in order to move forwards in this film, we had to destroy.
Yeah.
Which is not the peace and harmony that we're led to believe a lot of the time.
Have a listen to this, and I want to get your take on this clip. This is a clip. This is full of David alone on the ship. The crew is fast asleep, and he's coloring his hair and watching a movie.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes?
Flimsy, sir.
Thank you.
You do that once too often. It's only flesh and blood.
Michael George Hartley, you're a philosopher.
And you're balmy. Oh! It damn well hurts.
Certainly it hurts.
Well, what's the trick then?
The trick, William Potter, is not minding that it hurts.
The trick, William Potter, is not minding that it hurts.
I don't know about you, dude, but I absolutely loved that scene.
Well, it's curious you've gone and chosen that, because I have an issue with that. All right. And again, yeah, I think it's a great scene. It really... the David character is beautifully portrayed. But again, Hollywood just want to tell us and sell us Hollywood. All right? And I'm thinking straight away of other films. V for Vendetta, for example, one of my favourite stories of all time. And in that film, he sat watching an old movie and reimagining himself a little bit through it. And how many films from Hollywood show us somebody watching a clip of a film from Hollywood? Okay. Now, let me give that a different way around, because you might say, yeah, well, fair enough, it's Hollywood. That's what the directors will do. How many films from Hollywood can you think that put down Hollywood? Where the main character in it doesn't watch films and states they don't want to watch films, they don't like film?
Never.
Now, there's a thought.
Yeah.
A self-portraying image, which we've been told again and again and again.
Yeah. Like, why would an android watch a movie?
Well, there's the question, does this android have emotions? They're not meant to have... Well, they're not meant to have a soul, but they act in ways sometimes where you could imagine, do they?
Well,
do they feel things?
Well, that ties into what this entire scene is about. It's illustrating that David, the android, doesn't have emotions, doesn't have a soul, but he's pretty damn good at imitating it. He's pretty good at fooling you, at imitation. It's as if it's the programming to fool humanity. And he says it a number of times during the movie where they're putting space helmets on, and one of the crew says, "David, what are you wearing a helmet for? You don't breathe." And he says, well, I have to because I act in a way where I can relate to people. And if I were not to wear this helmet and walk outside where, you wouldn't look at me, you'd look at me differently. And it's very similar, that clip where he says, the trick, Mr. Potter, is to because I don't know if in that scene there's a scene from Lawrence of Arabia where Peter O'Toole puts out a match with his fingers. And the match is burning, he just clasps the tip with his fingers and the match goes out and everyone is amazed, like, well, how did you do that without screaming in pain? And then one of his cohorts does it and he's like, oh, blade now. He burns his finger and he says it hurts, and he says, yeah, of course it hurts, but the trick is not to let it hurt.
Or maybe it's a question of how far can we create life itself, because we can accept that we can make a machine. But can we accept that we can create, first of all, artificial intelligence, which we are creating?
Right.
Okay, and why do we do it? Because we can. Okay, as they said in this film as well. Why were we created? Maybe just because they could create us.
Right.
But who directed Blade Runner? That was Ridley Scott, wasn't it?
Yes.
Exactly. And isn't that film also about creating synthetic people and how real they can be?
Well, it's another in the I keep going back to the extras on the Blu-ray because there's a lot of it. There's a few scenes that firmly place Prometheus and Alien in the same universe as Blade Runner, where Wayland is talking to who's the guy in Blade Runner who creates the Nexus androids. I can't think of his name, but you remember the guy with the glasses?
Yes, I do. Name's gone out of my head as well.
So Wayland is talking to him, saying, "You know what? I've just created this new android, which will make your replicants obsolete. Because you just have like a 4-year lifespan. These things can go forever." And so it plants the two movies or the several movies all in the same.
We're going to have to do another show on Blade Runner.
On Blade Runner, yeah, absolutely.
But in this one as well, we had the person in charge of the whole enterprise is a woman called Vickers.
Yeah.
And she acts at times very non-emotional. And I think there's a question, not necessarily if she's for me, not if she's a robot like David, and also she's the daughter we find out of Wayland.
Yeah.
So there's like a brother-sister rivalry there, perhaps. But my question is she perhaps like a more modern evolvement or modern creation of David? Does she have emotion? Is she beyond David, perhaps?
Oh, it's very possible, and you can see there's a kind of jealousy between them because Wayland continually talks about his son, his only son, and it's like he could care less about her. And there's that scene where you can see the look in her face, the pain. It's just for a split second.
She's very, very young to be his daughter.
Exactly, because he's like 100 and something in this movie. And once again, back to the extras. There's several scenes that were filmed with Wayland as a young man, and you often think, well, why would he choose Guy Pearce, a guy in his 30s or 40s, to play a guy in his 90s or 100s? Right? Why not pick an older actor to play that part? Why would they pick someone so young? Well, my thinking is they picked someone so young so they could do major flashback sequences for the next movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Where he is a young man in in the mid 2000s. In 2030, 2020, and there's a scene on the disc also where he's at. The TED Talks, the TED Technology Talks, and Wayland is presenting at TED, and he's a young man, and he's talking about the future of robotics in like 2016 or something. So yeah, interesting stuff. We really should begin to wrap up this episode. I know that we could literally go on for hours on this movie, but I think we've given a good, well-rounded review of Prometheus and what viewers might not see on the surface upon first watching. If you have seen Prometheus and you didn't like it, watch it again and think about some of the themes and topics that we've kind of melded into this episode, And when you watch it again, I think you might see it with new eyes. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll be back very soon on Behind the Curtain.
And if you go into space, don't take your helmet off.
Yeah, and don't scream because they can't hear you.